Hello and welcome to another episode of I Don't Have a Name for This. I'm your host, Kristen J, and I'm so happy to be blessing your ears again today. I have missed saying that intro, and life be lifing. Every time I think that I'm gonna be able to be consistent on the podcast, something happens, something comes up, and I think it's twofold. I think it's my fear of success. So I create resistance and blockages in my life. But I also think that life be lifing. We can't take away the fact that this is, after all, a human experience, and we are subject to the cards we are dealt. And the only thing we can actually control is how we respond to life. And my natural response is to shut down and shy away from the things that I love. And I've noticed this within me before. It's a pattern that I've been trying to break. But considering all that I have on my plate, I think that I'm doing pretty good. That was the meatiest and whoa. The New York brain in me. That was the lengthiest intro I've ever the intro to the intro I've ever said on this podcast episode. But hello, hi, welcome if you're new here. Welcome back if you're not. It's been a while, but nonetheless, we are here. Today is June 21st as we're recording this. It is the first day of Cancer season. We just had our summer solstice, the longest day of the year, yesterday, and we're feeling all of those energies right now. I thought it was a perfect time to film this episode as I'm entering my season. I'm about to enter my third decade around here. And I'm just so happy and so grateful for where I'm at in life, even though I'm not where I want to be. I've definitely learned in this season, in my 20s, filming this last episode as a girl in her 20s, is so bittersweet. I am grateful for what 20s were to me, and I am ready to close this chapter, close this book, and say hello to 30s, which is actually literally insane. My birthday is in like 9 days or something like that. I don't know. I'm not doing the math with counting. But I'm about to be 30, and this, I believe, if I don't film another episode in between here and then, will be the last episode as a 20-something-year-old girl. And so this episode is near and dear to my heart. It's an episode that if the last episode was highly anticipated, this is that episode's little sister. Rightfully so, because as a self-proclaimed CEO of Love, I expect you guys to hold me to that. So, as you know by the title, this episode is about love and relationships and dating, and this might very well be the second longest episode on the podcast because your girl has got a lot to say. I have a lot to say. I'm so nervous. I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think I could have one listener or a million listeners, and I will always just feel so honored to have this space to talk with you guys and just to reflect and give you guys gems and share my life experiences with you in real time, sometimes not in real time, and just be able to go through this life journey, this experience together, and look back and lend a hand or give some words of encouragement for people who are going through what I've been through or going through what I'm going through. It's just an honor to be here, and honestly, I think that the next couple of days are going to be me feeling very sappy about closing out my 20s. Just a moment of silence for that. So crazy. 20s was a long decade, and as a black girl who just had $1 in a dream, moved from Harlem to California with literally, I didn't even have the first month's rent. I literally borrowed the first month's rent, to now studying for the bar and getting ready to, live out the dreams that I had as a 4-year-old girl and getting to do what I love. If I could tell that 4-year-old girl that we would have a microphone and we would chat our butt off and we'll be yappers on a podcast with a platform with people who enjoy us yapping, she probably wouldn't believe me, because I barely believe me. I'm just so grateful to be here, and I don't take this for granted. I don't take this opportunity lightly, and I'm happy to be a conduit of healing, a conduit of love, and I'm happy that you guys are so interested in hearing about what I gotta say about relationships and love. With that being said, I do think that we're gonna have to break this episode into 2 parts, just because we might, I don't know. I don't write my episodes. If you're not new here, I don't script. I go straight off the dome. I kind of just freestyle these bad boys, and I never know really where these things are going to take us. So if I'm able to fit everything, all of your questions in one episode, I will. But if not, definitely look out for part 2, relationships episode part 2, because season 3 is full of bangers. Like every season is full of gems, but these are like, every episode is a highly anticipated episode, and so that just makes me so excited. And I hope that we don't have to have any more interruptions from here to the next episode. But I am studying for the bar, and that is my first priority right now, is just getting past that bar. July 30th and July 31st is right around the corner, and then hopefully we'll be back to a regularly scheduled program. Now that officially was the lengthiest intro I've ever had. Probably not. I'm lying. I think last episode was definitely a little longer than that. But if you're ready for the episode, if you're ready for the tea, go ahead and sit down and grab your drink. I got a drink today because I'm bringing back the drinks. Like, let's get cozy. Light your candle. I got my incense blowing. I got my cozy candles going. This is gonna be a fun episode. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted, not too much. Like, don't take it too seriously. Don't take life too seriously. Like, loosen up, live a little, relax, and enjoy the episode. But before we get started, if you're new here, you probably don't know where we're going. But if you're not new to this and you are true to this, you already know what part of the episode this is. This is the segment where we make space for you, and I get to ask you, how are you doing? No, really, how are you? Thank you for taking time to create space for yourself. You are loved. You are beautiful. You are enough. I am grateful to be able to share this space with you, where we get to make a moment of silence, a moment of space, a moment for you to just really check in with yourself and see how you're doing, because a lot of the times we're on autopilot. We're living routine lives.
Power off.
Oh my God, that is so ghetto. My bad, you guys. You guys know I normally make sure I cross my T's and dot my I's, and I did, and I was having 1,000,001 technical difficulties. I literally thought I wasn't going to be able to film this episode because my mic wouldn't turn on. But we're here, and as I was saying, I'm so grateful to create a moment of silence, a moment of time where you get to check in with yourself and just really see how you're doing. The reason why I asked that question twice is because the first time we normally give a bullshit answer, and we don't do no bullshit on this podcast. And if you know me in real life, you know we really don't do no bullshit over here. So thank you for sharing, and I'll answer. I'm doing my best. A girl is doing her best. I'm doing as best as I can be. But I can't complain, honestly. I'm living, I'm breathing, I'm grateful. I've been able to continue to work and study for the bar exam at the same time, and still somewhat create a balance in my life, and I feel okay. I mean, I'm as okay as I'm gonna be in this position, and I'm very accepting of the cards I've been dealt in life. um you know, God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and I've been on that list for 29 years. I hope for year 30 we reevaluate because I'm tired. Hey Lord, I'm tired. But yeah, I embraced it. I low key unfortunately thrive in adversity. One of the words I think people use to describe me, I know people used to describe me as resilient, and I don't like that word. I have an issue with that word. If you know me, you know I'm a very literal person, and it's not a literal problem that I have with the word. The problem that I have with the word is the fact that I've had no choice but to be resilient. I've had no choice but to step up to the plate. I've had no choice but to keep going, and I do recognize that, when you're charting uncharted waters, when you're navigating uncharted waters, it's going to feel very difficult. It's going to feel like you're going upstream because you are. And that is a privilege. I realize that is a privilege. A lot of people don't get to or ever live out their dreams and go after what they want because of their circumstances, their socioeconomic status, because of the cards they've been dealt. And I've been lucky enough and blessed enough to take the cards I've been dealt and take my situation and honestly make a really good happy ever after out of it. Like, if I do nothing else in this life, I'm very accomplished. I'm very happy with what I've done with my life, and not in terms of like an external outlook or external summation of what I've done in my life, but internally what I've done and where I've been able to come to on this journey. And this is a great way to segue into the episode, where I'm just gonna start out with like my understanding of love. And this episode is probably not going to be what you expect it to be. I'm not going to be giving you cookie cutter relationship advice. I'm going to be giving you foundational framework of what I believe relationships and love is about and what works for me. And so with that, let's get into it. I do not script these episodes, but I do have, like last episode, a list of things I want to make sure I get through, which is why I do think we're kind of gonna be here for a while. I'm not really sure. We're just going with the flow. We're just going with the flow. We're going with what we dealt with, what we've been dealt with, and we're practicing the art of surrendering and just not needing to be in control. That is actually a perfect summation of where I'm at in my life. For the next, probably, I don't know. This is just the lesson that I am mastering currently in real time. So my understanding of love for the past couple years, literally the last two and a half years now at this point, I've been really redefining and refining my understanding of love. And I've really come to see it as something incredibly freeing and beautiful. I used to see love in a certain light 2.5 years ago, where it was like very attached to an outcome, very my person is my person. It was very restrictive in the way that I viewed it. I also subscribed to love being painful, like you have to suffer for things to get good. I no longer subscribe to that. Just putting that out there. But my idea of love was very skewed naturally by my experiences and by my limited perspective, but on this deep introspective journey that I've been on for the last 2.5 years, which I kind of talk about the beginning of that in the last episode. In case you missed it, go ahead and check that out before this or after this, or whenever you have time. I really do get into like my healing journey and how it started, all in there. But me going on that deep path to self-love, I really got to understand what it meant to love others. And for me, love isn't about possession or control. It's about experiencing life through another. It's about appreciating each other's unique journeys and feeling grateful for every moment that you get to share together, because at the end of the day, we are souls having human experiences. And while we do get attached to an idea and a person naturally as humans in this experience, that is part of the journey. And learning to release that attachment, learning to release that control is what I think is the highest form of love. I think it's the highest frequency. I think love is unconditional. And by unconditional, I don't mean that love is without bounds or without standards, but it's unconditional in the way that it shows up, in the way that it manifests between two people, whether that be platonic or romantically. But in this episode, we're specifically focusing on romantic love, because I know that's what you guys want me to talk about. I think love is about truly allowing each other to be, creating a space for each other to be authentic without trying to change or mold the other person into what you want them to be, into what you see them to be. Just allowing them to have their human experience and allowing them to be themselves, and fully showing up and loving them every step of that way, and knowing that as humans, we're ever evolving and committing to a lifetime of growth together. Like, whatever that lifetime looks like, maybe you guys' lifetime is a week. Maybe you guys' lifetime is a lifetime. Like, the lifetime I'm speaking about specifically is a lifetime of the relationship, and respecting that, you know, there are greater forces at play. Like, we may not know what's in store for our lives and why we go through certain things, but hindsight is 2020, you know, and staying rooted and knowing that it's all happening for your highest and greatest good. Like, it is all happening for you. In the last 2.5 years, I really adopted the mentality that everything is happening for me. I've never been a woe is me kind of person, but I did feel like life was happening to me for a while. I was like, whoa, I'm getting my ass beat here. I'm getting dragged and this keeps happening to me. Why is this happening to me? And, you know, it's easy to fall prey to that, because when you're experiencing, you know, tragedy after tragedy, trauma after trauma, downfall after downfall, you naturally can become discouraged on this journey. But I learned that every step of the way I was picking up tools that I needed ultimately to be where I'm at now. I speak about this in another episode, I don't remember which one it is, about the fact that, you know, landing in Africa with no luggage, with nothing but me, Gamora, and my carry-on. Not even my carry-on, I had a purse with my iPhone charger in it. That's the only thing I had, and my journal. Isn't that ironic? That trip prepared me to live on the other side of the coast for 3 years on a treacherous life and soul crushing journey that law school was for the last 3 years, and be able to make it out here without my family, because I made it out there in Africa without anything. And that was just like the training grounds for that. And so naturally I learned that life wasn't happening to me, but it was happening for me. And when we're able to adopt that mentality, we're able to appreciate the ebbs and flows and the cyclicalness of life. And we're able to understand that we can't appreciate the light without darkness. And wherever there's a shadow, there is light to be casted. And if y'all know me, I'm the CEO, I'm the queen of shadow work. I love getting into my shadows. I love doing this work. I don't shy away from the hard things. I invite it. I love when I can discover a shadow within me. And I think that relationships are mirrors and containers for growth. And in relationships, a lot of shit, a lot of traumas, a lot of triggers, a lot of limiting beliefs are going to be uprooted, especially in deeply rooted, soul aligned connections. That is the purpose. I saw this quote, and if I feel like being fancy, I'll probably put it on the screen. But y'all know I don't edit. We very low maintenance over here. We're very like go with the flow. We keep the footage raw. But I sometimes do want to share the quotes with you guys, like, that I see, and so I might put it on the screen. But the quote was, and now I forgot the quote. Oh my god. The ADHD be kicking my butt. But yeah, the quote was, what was the quote, Kristen? I don't want to have to pause the video to look it up. The quote was that once I realized that my relationships are not here to make me happy, but to make me conscious, life became much more easier. Or something around those lines. And that's exactly it. That's exactly that's exactly the mentality I'm asking you to embody when you think about relationships, when you think about love, when you think about even friendships. Like, people are not here to be your sole purpose, your sole source of happiness. Although people can make us happy, although people can help us with returning back home to ourselves and getting back to our baseline frequency, which I believe is love, in reality, relationships are containers for growth, and they require a lot of work. And so when I say I'm not giving you the cookie cutter tea on this episode, I really meant that. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, well, yeah, you need to, I mean, I might do that in the future, like in part 2 of this episode, but I think I really want to drive home what the foundational framework is for what I believe are successful relationships. And I have many successful relationships in my life, and these are the guiding principles that I operate by. And so when you are committed to the ebbs and flows of life without trying to change or mold someone into what you want them to be, you get to love them and experience them unconditionally. You get to give them space, and they get to show up for you the way that they know how to, and we're able to understand and respect each other's perspectives and experiences, even when they differ from our own. And that is a hard, tough pill to swallow in relationships, because naturally, as humans, we do have ideas and concepts of what we want the relationships to look like and what we want the person to look like. But we are all on our own individual journeys, and you know how much of a blessing it is that we get to experience this life and be alive with that person at this time and connect with them and play a role in their life. And I think if we root ourselves more in gratitude, if you're watching this and you saw that light go off, you know what? We're gonna keep rolling. We're gonna keep going, because we're not letting nothing stop us. Nothing is gonna stop us. When I tell y'all I experienced a lot of resistance and blockages just trying to get this episode off the ground, I truly mean that. But if you're watching this, I appreciate you. I rock with you. The lighting still looks good, so we're good. We're gonna keep rolling. But yeah, when we're able to truly appreciate each other for our own individual journeys and understand that we are main characters in our own lives, and our partners are main characters in their own lives, and they have their own lessons to master, and they have their own triggers and traumas to get past, and we're all here on this earth plane with no human manual, not knowing what the hell we're doing on here, and we're all just figuring it out, and we're all just doing our best with what we have. When we're able to embody that, that's when the real growth and connection happens. At least in my opinion, at least in my experience. And don't get me wrong, that is not always easy, because I am human and my ego does kick in, and I've done a lot of work to make sure that, I'm able to, I don't subscribe to erasing the ego or fighting the ego. I think the ego plays a very important role here, and I think it's about integration. And so noticing when the ego is showing up and when it's not necessary, when it's not needed, because the ego's one true job is to keep us safe. And so that's all the ego is doing. I know the ego gets this very demonized villain Elliot. Is there somebody named Elliot watching this? Because what gets this villain edit But I don't really subscribe to that, because I think that the ego is a part of the human experience. That's why we reincarnated as humans. And so it's a part of this experience. It's a part of learning how to balance and knowing when the ego is needed and when it's not. And so, yeah, the ego is a great way to segue into the next part of the next main I guess pillar or grounding principle in relationships for me, which is that fear has no space in love. Fear and love are opposite frequencies, and like love is the embodiment of faith, right? Truly trusting, truly surrendering to the uncertainty. And that can sound scary, I understand, but sit with me and hear me out. Fear is the idea, it's a manifestation of needing control. It's a manifestation of needing certainty. It's a manifestation of needing things to look a certain way. And so with what I've described to you as my definition and my belief of love, understand how those two concepts cannot coexist cohesively on the same plane. So fear, there is no space for fear in love. And I am working really hard every day to embody this currently. I am not like the best at it. I am human, and I do have my moments and I do have my downfalls where fear consumes me to the point where it becomes crippling. I have a lot of relational trauma, and some of that relational trauma is only triggered in a relationship dynamic. And as much as I could do the work on my own, it's not until I'm in a situation to realize that this actually still has an impact on me. This actually still is, there's still some scrubbing to do. There's still some pulling up to do, some root work to do here, in order to get to the root of that limiting belief, the root of that trigger, the root of that trauma. And so fear is something that I'm constantly, working to heal within me and in my journey and in my relationships. But love truly should not be dictated by fear. And whether that be a fear of losing someone or a fear of not being good enough, fear just simply does not have any space to coexist in love. And I can go on about fears for so long, but I think I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Like, fear just doesn't have any space to coexist in love. And if you want to operate at the highest frequency, if you want to operate in love, then you do have to check your fear. And that doesn't mean that you don't experience it, but it means that when it shows up, you get curious. You embrace yourself. You're compassionate with yourself on this journey. And you get to the root cause. Because even with fears and triggers and traumas that other external factors bring out inside of us, there's something within us that has to exist within us for someone else to bring it out of us. Otherwise, there's nothing to bring out. So getting curious with yourself as to where this fear comes from. What is it actually telling you? What are you actually afraid of? A lot of us think we want love and unconditional love, but we're scared shitless of being loved unconditionally, of being seen fully. To be loved is to be seen. And a lot of us are not ready for that. A lot of us are not ready to see ourselves. And we can only be met as deeply as we meet ourselves. And so while we think that we want deep, unconditional love, that shit scares the shit out of us. Because it requires us to be vulnerable. It requires us to take a risk. It requires us to bet on ourselves. It requires us to show up fully and authentically. And there's no half-assing it. There's no half-stepping it. You don't get to finesse your way and finagle your way. And the people who are finessing and finagling, they're finessing and finagling themselves. because this experience has no room for that. Love is about embracing the flow of life, of our relationships, and trusting that we're always exactly where we need to be. Love is it's a choice. It's not an emotion. It's something that you have to choose daily. It's a frequency. It's an energy. And the truest and the highest form of that is unconditional. And when I say unconditional, I want you to understand that I don't mean that it doesn't have bounds. I've seen recently here on Twitter, there's like think pieces about, I'm a lover and a leaver. Yes, I am. I will love the shit out of you unconditionally. But I have standards. And I have standards. I have standards, and having standards is important for navigating relationships, knowing what your needs are. And it's a balancing art, to be honest. Having standards that are true to yourself and allowing a person to show up as they are. And then you get to see if the way that person is and how they show up aligns with what you need and what your standards are. And then if not, you get to reevaluate the relationship and decide if that's something that you keep in your life, or how close you keep it in your life, or how much you prioritize it. But love gets to look like whatever you want it to look like. Remember in the beginning of this episode, I said that I used to subscribe to love needing to be hard. And guess what? I manifested a lot of hard love. Like, it was all of my relationships have been hard to this point, and my romantic ones, I mean. And our beliefs truly do create our experiences, and that's an episode for another day. But I really want to drive home the idea that you get to shape your relationships the way you want them to look. If you want your relationships to be easy, they get to be easy. And I now subscribe to that. My relationships are easy. My relationships are deeply and solely aligned. And I only connect with people who are deeply and solely aligned on a deep level. And so, to the extent that we don't try to mold and change people, we let them show up as they are. And, we can communicate our standards. And, sometimes we have to teach people how to love us, because there's 7 billion people on this planet. And none of us experience today the same way. None of us, not one of us, experience today the same way. Even those of us who live in the same household, who didn't leave the house, who had the same exact day, we did not experience it in the same way. And so we don't know what we don't inherently know what you need or how you need to be loved. And so I know there's rhetoric around, you shouldn't have to teach someone how to love you. No, we're different people. We're raised differently. We have different guiding principles. We subscribe to different ideologies. We experience things differently, and our experiences do shape our perception, and our beliefs do as well. So we do naturally have to teach people how to love us. And that's something that I've learned over the last 2.5 years, as someone who used to be like, well, you got one time to look at me wrong and blink wrong and you're gone. I'm a lot more compassionate now, and I'm happy that I am. And I realized that the person I had been over the last 27 years prior was as a result of my experiences. It was a defense mechanism. And it took 2.5 years for me to get to where I'm at and to really return back home to myself. And I'm still on this journey of returning home to myself and being my most authentic version of me, because at my core, this is who I am. I want to love people. I just love love. And I guess that's why you guys care so much about what I got to say on this topic, because I just love to love, and I make it clear and known from the day that you meet me. And one of the things that everyone always says about me and always speaks about me is about my heart. Everyone always mentions, your heart is so big. You love so raw and so authentically. And I pride myself in doing so, because I want for everyone that I come in contact with to experience that. And I want to always be a conduit of that. And so I say all that to say that we need to have more grace for each other on this journey. And yes, sometimes we do need to teach people how to love us. I'm not sitting here and saying give him 3 chances after he cheated on you. I'm saying that if you like flowers, maybe that's something that needs to be communicated. And to some people, it comes intuitively and naturally, and that's great. But to some people, it doesn't. And that doesn't mean that it's the end of the relationship or that you guys are not compatible. I think social media has a way of creating a very vicious cycle of self-deprecating beliefs and ideologies around relationships that kill the relationship before the relationship's able to take off. Like, there was this tweet going around about this guy who went on a date with a girl, and she was great, I guess, and he's been talking to her, I don't know, I guess for a couple of months before they went out on a date. And then he said, hey, I went on a date with you, it was a good time, but I want you to know, like, being with you today made me realize I'm not over my ex, and I don't have the capacity to meet you where you're at. And everybody was bashing this man online, and I was just like, do you guys live under a rock? This is the kind of honesty and communication that we need. He could have easily kept that tucked and continued leading this girl on, and she could be in a 2-year relationship with a guy who was using her as a rebound. Instead, he was honest about his capacity. And I think honesty is plays such a huge role in relationships and the foundation of the relationships. And being able to communicate, not only being able to communicate, but being able to comprehend as a receiver of the information that's being laid on you. Are you listening to what the person is telling you? This guy's telling you that he's not ready for a relationship. He's not ready to continue dating. And you guys bash him. Yeah, maybe it hurt. Maybe it stung. But it would have hurt a lot more if she was 10 months into a situationship with this guy, and this guy was like, yeah, no, I'm still thinking about my ex. And it goes back to my first principle of, like, we really need to accept that people are having their own individual journeys. And as long as they're not doing it at the expense of us, then we should be able to appreciate that. And sometimes people do accidentally do it at the expense of us, and sometimes people do it intentionally at the expense of us. As someone who has experienced manipulation, I can vouch for both experiences, and I can tell you that, yeah, maybe both situations sting, but I much more rather appreciate people and meet them where they're at. And allow them to show up the way that they want to show up, the way that they can show up, the way that they have capacity to show up. And then deciding if that aligns for me. Love at its core is a deep commitment to understanding and respecting each other as we are. And loving each other as we are. Oftentimes we project and we see people's potential and what they can be and what we can mold them into, but it's about accepting the art as it is. And yeah, maybe one day it'll grow into whatever masterpiece you have made up in your mind, but maybe one day it won't. And maybe it's a completely different masterpiece. Are you able to love and accept that? Are you able to be open to this looking a different way than you planned? Oh, I'm getting chills. I'm about to cry. I'm about to be so emotional and sappy in my feelings. Love is an energetic exchange. An experience that goes beyond mere attachment to outcomes, and it's about being immensely present in the moment, in the present moment. I think the pain that surrounds endings and breakups often stems from our attachment to specific outcomes, because we stay so married and so wedded to outcomes and expectations and needing things to look a certain type of way, that when we can't let go of these attachments and expectations, we're not able to accept what is and what was, and appreciate the beauty of the relationship while it lasted, and appreciate it for what it was and for what it taught you and for what you gained. And this is not something that is easy, and I hope that, I'm very transparent. Like, I'm talking now as a person who's dealt with a lot of heartbreak, and child, yeah, it takes me a very long time to process heartbreak and to heal and to rebuild myself and do damage control. I don't want this episode to make it seem like it's so easy, because it's not. And I'm emphasizing that because it's important in real time to understand that from a person who's already experienced these things and who's not experiencing it in real time, these things are much easier said than done. And it takes a lot of work. It took me 2.5 years, and I'm still working on this. And I think honestly that this is a lifelong journey. And so, dating as a spiritual girly, I don't believe that you need to be healed to date. Like, I know that there's a lot of rhetoric around that as well. Like, you need to be healed to be dating. If you're not healed, you shouldn't be dating. And that's not true, but you should know what that version of you who is ready to date looks like. And that's something that I only recently discovered in therapy, like 2 months ago. I was healing for 2.5 years, but I had no specific idea of what the version of me looked like that was ready to date. And so 2 years ago, I created that idea, that concept, and I don't have to be her to the T, but I'm gonna get as close as possible, and the universe does the rest. I think our only job is to align ourselves to our truest, most authentic form and operate in love, and the universe does the rest for you. So no, I don't subscribe to the idea that you have to be completely healed to be in a relationship, and that you can't date and heal at the same time. Because like I said earlier, some triggers and traumas and some of that healing has to be done in a relationship container. You cannot heal trust issues on your own. I don't care what anybody says. You cannot learn to trust if you're not engaging in relationships, whether that's romantic or that's platonic. You cannot build trust without building trust in others. And that does start with you. I will say that. You can't trust others if you don't trust yourself. But you can't heal your trust for others without engaging in trusting others. And trust is not this black and white one-dimensional thing that we talk about. Trust is not something that's gained and it's earned. It's not like that. There's levels to this shit. Like, there's levels to everything. So once we can let go to our attachment to the outcomes and accept that love is fluid, love is ever evolving, then we can find peace even in very difficult transitions like breakups. And for what it's worth, beginnings are often disguised as endings. This perspective really lets us appreciate the beauty of each moment and not be consumed by the fear of loss or change, and allow us to be truly present in the connection, allow us to nurture, water, feed, sunlight, cater, tend to our connections, our gardens, our own gardens, and then our collaborative gardens. That just made my heart so warm. Trust that whatever unfolds is a part of your journey, your individual journey, and your shared journeys. And trust that we're always where we're supposed to be. Relationships are not to comfort our loneliness. Relationships are where we meet ourselves deeply. And that shit is hard. Y'all, I've been talking for 45 minutes and I ain't even drink my drink. Hold on. And when I say hard, I'm not prescribing or projecting a level of difficulty, but appreciating the complexity that comes with doing all that I'm talking about. Relationships take a lot of work. A lot of people get into relationships to mask their loneliness, to, fill a void. And while I won't say these are wrong reasons, because I don't believe in like right or wrong, good or bad, but those reasons don't necessarily align with me. And of course, there's moments in this journey where I do feel lonely, where I do feel like I want companionship, right? And there's nothing wrong with wanting companionship. But I want to be mindful that I'm not engaging in relationships to fill voids, and that I'm taking care of my garden first before I invite anybody into it. And with that being said, we are at the end of relationships. And I don't even know what this episode is going to be titled, because we just free flowed, and I know you guys wanted me to talk about relationships. I didn't get to the Q&A part, and we're already at almost 50 minutes. So there's definitely going to be a part 2. I probably will talk a little bit more about my experience as dating as a spiritual girly and on the celibacy journey. I know that you guys were asking for the celibacy journey episode to be a little bit longer and for me to expand a little bit more. I have now been on my journey for a couple of years, so I can talk a little bit more about those things, and I am in a different place and space in life where I do have more experiences to expand on. So that scares the shit out of me. I just said that shit with so much confidence, and that scares the shit out of me, because low key, you guys, I am really a private public person. Like, I be online, offline. Like, the things that I put online, I'm very calculated. I share things when I am ready to share them, and I'm completely conscientious of what I'm sharing. And dating and my experiences are like, that's so personal to me, but I am more than happy to share if it's gonna help someone else in their experience. And you guys are asking me for this for a reason, so I am going to show up, and who knows, maybe you'll get another episode as my 20-something-year-old self, and then maybe it will be relationship episode part 2. Who knows? I won't make any promises, because I don't like to break my word, and it kills me every time when I say I'm going to be back on that podcast and I'm not able to commit to that. But I know that you guys are so understanding. You guys are so supportive. My support team goes crazy. You guys go so crazy about me, and I love you guys, because you guys keep me accountable, but you guys also give me so much grace, and it reminds me to give myself grace on this journey, because it's very easy to ask God, your spirit team, the universe, your guides for alignment, and then not appreciate the way in which that alignment shows up. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I'm like, not that I don't appreciate the way the alignment is showing up, but I'm frustrated. And I've been on this healing journey for 2.5 years, and I don't think I'll ever get off of it now that I'm very conscious about it. I don't think we ever are fully healed. I think we just learn to get better at this thing called life. And once we master the lessons that we're supposed to master, we, go where we go. But that's neither here nor there. If you made it this far in the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, give me 5 stars wherever you're listening to this. Go ahead and drop your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Rate the show. Let me know your thoughts. Go ahead on Spotify. If you're watching this on Spotify, there's always a Q&A section, or like a little survey section where you can leave your thoughts and feedback. And don't forget, if you are new to this and you're not true to this, you can still be new. You can still be true to this. Like, it's not too late. It is not too late. You can subscribe to the newsletter. All the details will be in the show notes, and I will see you guys in the next one. I love you guys. Bye.